I'm Anu Bharadwaj. I'm the founder of Women Investing in Women Digital. I knew that I wanted to change the world, but I needed to understand the world first. So I started working with research programs, scientific studies. I started to learn about cultures, about people, about causes, and things that I really care about. And at that time, I realized that the way that I could really impact the world better was to understand business better. So it's really a global phenomenon of why investing in women entrepreneurs is so critical, not just to the communities, but to economies. And so it made sense at this time to do a film around what this theme is. I could remember the young women and girls that I grew up with and what my aunts were like, what my cousins were like, what my friends were like, but most importantly, what my grandmother was like. She would always tell me that she didn't want me in the kitchen because she wanted me to be the best I could be and never have to worry about cooking and taking care of the house. And she said, you'll have plenty of time to do that later if you choose to do that later. It's not something you're obligated to do. I'm most interested in making sure you get the best education you can because I wasn't given that opportunity.
You read textbooks for small children and it will say the father drives the car and the mother's cooking in the kitchen. In a country like India, unless we bring a behavioral change from when the children are very young, it's not going to make any difference. Because over centuries, the confidence of women has been undermined. That you are a homemaker, that you have to look after the children. So you've created that mindset.
We need to change the way people value girls. You can build all the schools out there and you can provide books and scholarships. You can build clinics and provide immunizations, but none of that will really have any impact unless we change the way girls are valued. They often want to invest in building a school, and yes, that's important, but girls won't be there unless their parents and other people in the community feel that they are valued enough to make that investment in them.
Education is the basic stepping stone to do whatever you want to do in life, either for a woman or a man, and more so for women because in many countries, including in rural areas, girls are not sent to school. Boys are, because thinking that the boys will get educated, will get a job. But if we don't educate girls, it is never going to lead to economic progress or gender equality.
Success comes with skills. Education provides women with skills. It provides women with the capacity to make intelligent choices. It helps women to get seniority in their jobs. Economies and industries that feature women at strategic parts of the economy outperform their peers. So it is a win for the women, it is a win for communities, it is a win for economies of nations.
Well, for me, women are really the fabric that holds our world together. And whether you look at it from a social perspective or an economic perspective, if they're putting 90% of their income back to communities and families, that's a pretty darn good bet. So I've always been inspired to give women the opportunities to succeed, whether it's in business or it's with health or as mothers. And it seems like it always comes back tenfold.
Just makes more business sense. And there's been a study from McKinsey & Co. that said if we were to actively invest in women entrepreneurs, global economy can go up by $12 trillion. And there's just like an underutilized asset right now that we have, and just because they're not getting their fair share.
In venture capital, about 78% of businesses venture capital businesses don't have women making decisions about the investments. In fact, they've never even hired women at the senior level. It's proven that when there are women who are making decisions about investments, then they're much more apt to invest in other women who run those businesses, other women entrepreneurs with whom they would like to work and make an investment.
"13 years ago, some colleagues of mine and myself decided that it was time to get serious about investing in women entrepreneurs. It became evident to us that women had the skills and the ideas to start great businesses. They were really at a point where they had all of those attributes in large numbers, but were having a really tough time starting businesses, largely because all of the investors in entrepreneurs had been primarily men. The primary people who have funded businesses in the past have been groups of investors who have been primarily men. Sometimes they are much more accustomed to investing in people that look just like themselves. And also they are less likely to understand some of the business ideas that women are likely to create.
Whenever I tell any women, okay, and this has happened so many times I can't even count. Every time I tell them what we do, right, a media company for diverse millennial women, and I tell them our message, they're instantly able to relate to it and they understand. Having to explain that to a man is so difficult at times because they're like, okay, I get it, but is it necessary?
What I've seen is an increase in women who are creating businesses and products that are actually centered on women directly and what our pain points and what our needs are. And so even though we're 50% of the population, most of the products and services we buy are designed for us by men. We live in what I call a system of coded patriarchy. So this essentially means that a lot of the world that we interact with is actually designed with male as the default. So for example, when women go in and out of a building, the doors are actually heavier because they're designed for the tensile strength of an average man. Most women can't use an iPhone one-handed, while most men can. But what that translates to is that women drop their phones more often, and there's actually additional cost for women when they're interacting with certain kinds of technology.
Less than 2% of pharmaceutical CEOs are women, and the impact of that has been that we don't have enough medical products for us, tailored to us. We do have biological differences, and with men in power, they've always been tailored towards men.
There is a gap, a significant gap, and you can look at it as a problem or an opportunity or a opportunity, however you want to look at it. It's also a social and economic imperative that we tell the world that it's time to invest in women. But the access to Capitol Police in the US is also an economic imperative. I mean, we just came out with a report that if women participated equally as men in entrepreneurship, we get 30 billion with a B dollars in GDP in 1 year.
Life is about adaptation. You have to adapt to the card that you're dealt. I was an entrepreneur before I even knew what an entrepreneur was.
The one thing I honestly never expected to do was to become an entrepreneur or an investor. I had to choose a different path. And the very simple reason why I chose it because there was no one just waiting there to give me the job that I wanted. I had to create it for myself.
Since I was young, I loved not only learning things, but I loved using the things I learned. I like to play the games, but I like to draw an idea of a game that I could try to sell to Nintendo, right? So I've always liked to play with things, learn with things, and then I realized that there was a name for all the things I loved. I realized and I learned the concept of entrepreneurship. So when I was younger, I didn't know about it. This wasn't very well distributed in Brazil. My family wasn't full of entrepreneurs or anything like that.
Not just because you were born in a certain city or a certain place or a certain country, or you studied a certain thing that you're bound to this. You can break the rules, you can achieve things that you possibly only dreamt of. So I think embracing ambition is now a good thing for women.
Traditionally, I've been a professor of philosophy, and I left doing that to start a business that has women's health at its core. And so the way I see it is I left doing theoretical work, and now I do more applied feminism. Instead of just armchair discussing feminism and hoping that that helps, and I'm sure it does to a certain degree to talk about things, but I felt the need to get out there and create products that will help women live more fully.
You don't have to be just one thing. Like, your passions can go across segments, and in the world that is constantly changing, you're actually well off if you think about the world in that way. When you talk about being an entrepreneur, you can mean opening a company, or you can mean being a protagonist. These are two very different things. When you're thinking that being an entrepreneur is opening a company, I don't defend this is for everyone. However, if being an entrepreneur is around having an entrepreneurial attitude and being a protagonist of your life, this I defend is for 100% of people.
Opportunity is about the things that women care about, things that relate to them, and how that technology and sustainability and innovation affects all different kinds of spheres. So, for example, instead of in structural engineering classes or in mechanical engineering classes, you're learning about bridges and cars. You can also study high heels. They are a really complicated structural problem, dynamic finite element analysis, et cetera, et cetera. So just kind of looking at the world through a female lens in the context of engineering is something that is really starting to change.
What does an entrepreneur do? They look at something and they say, I have an idea, I have a solution, and I'm going to create it. We're creators. When you have a diversity of perspectives and of expertise, then you get more interesting solutions.
Women could be the best supporters of other women. Investing in another woman, you're actually investing in a whole nation. You're sharing the same challenges, you're sharing the same path. You would know best what challenges that have faced her.
First of all, I'd say that when we talk about investing, we don't just mean investing in a financial context. We're also talking about investing in people, in building a community, in building an audience, in building a group of people who are advocates for whatever it is that you are trying to build.
I feel like so many women have invested in me throughout my life in terms of mentorship, help, advice. When you are investing in women, when a woman invests in women, she invests in basically herself. When I'm helping other girl, I'm helping myself. 5 years ago when I needed that advice or that time.
I met a group of girls at a party one night in Beijing, and we had read the book Lean In by Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg, and we were all inspired to build a small group called a Lean In Circle. And our group of 10 women, professional women who came from all walks of life, some were Chinese, some were foreign, and we met once or twice a month discussing professional and personal challenges that we had. And then we did a short survey of the women around us, and we realized that women around us all were facing similar issues: the lack of confidence, the lack of role models, and the lack of networks. And so we decided what Lean In China is about building very strong communities and strong support networks, because no one ever gets to the top alone.
I could become the person that we always wanted to be, but still there are millions of the girls who are out. They're just like me. They're curious, but giving a narrow vision to explore the world. They're wanting to know more, but they don't know what is truly possible. You can see these women that their entire life also depending on the man. But now they have, with the skill of the technology and skill of the business, they feel the financial independence for the first time in their lives. And this has the power to make change in conservative societies, that how they see and treat a woman.
This is about empowered women, empowering women, giving them that space to speak, a comfortable space to discuss, to network, where relationships are born, and you're connecting, you make the world a much smaller place.
They need to understand that there is no limit to what they can do. Share with her and advise her on what you may have not had when you were in her shoes.
So as a woman, I was always in fields that were minority, where women were minority. Technology, I was in technology for over 15 years, in a state where it's over 90% white population. So you're a woman, you're Indian, you're short, you have an accent, you know, there's so many things against you. And what I found is that either you can be debilitated by it and feel disappointed by it, or use it to your advantage. And I realized like a name like Lakshmi is very tough to remember for a lot of people. And I would say Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. So, you know, it would make people listen and stand your ground. And people would say, can we shorten it to something? I would say, no. Either you remember Lakshmi or you forget my name, it's okay, but you don't get to shorten it. I think you can use it to your own advantage and move forward with any disadvantage you have, because that's the only way to deal with it. Because the alternative is being debilitated by it. So you have to overcome the disadvantage.
You know, when everything else around you falls apart and you see your life changing rapidly, you sort of try to grab onto something positive, and that's sort of the lifeline that pulls you through. As a young child, my parents were divorced, and soon after that, I was about 12 years old, the revolution happened in Iran, and I saw the whole country start changing, and a lot of anger, a lot of fighting, and then there were bombings and food rations. I left Iran when I was 16 years old. I went to the US to study, and when I arrived there, I didn't even speak English. So I had to learn a new culture, learn a new language, start a whole new life. Impossible things can be possible if you work at it hard and that you put all you have in it, and with perseverance that you will find a way.
But the person that inspires me the most is my 7-year-old Arya. And that little girl is so fearless, and she is so brave, and she is so confident. She believes in what we're doing, and she always says, Mama, I know this is important. We have to do this for other little girls too.
As mothers, we always live with this continuous guilt that we may not be spending enough time with our children. It just eats us up. Although we know that whatever we do it for them. At their age, they may not see that. So the only way they will see it is by sharing with them what you do. Make them understand in very simple language what you do and the impact of what you do.
I hope that one day, just like I look at my mom, who was an engineer and worked all my childhood, I hope that one day she'll look at me the same way and say, wow, she had a goal, she had a great brain on her shoulders, she used it to further things that she was interested in, and will say, oh, but she was doing something she deeply believed in and was helping others, and I hope that inspires her to just want to chase whatever she wants to do.
When I went to space, I started doing a blog. There were about 25 million people started, following, reading, accessing the blog and writing back. And most of the people I was hearing back from were women around the world, which found it amazing that a woman from Middle East was able to go to space. And somehow it had given them hope. I didn't realize until then how powerful role models or how powerful stories can be.
We cannot solve the problems of gender diversity by putting a few tokens on the top every time there's a protest, right? We cannot have these, outbreaks of indignation when something horrendous like sexual harassment happens to the scale it has been disclosed to have been. We need to actually address it programmatically. We need to change regulation. We need to change policy. We need to change education.
I would say that, you need some believers out there, and there was a woman who believed in us so much, and this woman was Amira bin Karam. I had this sense that we're going to create something epic together, because it was two women who had that vision, that common goal, and we said, now that we finally found each other, we're gonna change the world. It was really about giving hope to so many different women from around the world, not just those from developed countries, but from developing countries. And she was really passionate about refugee issues and supporting women from her own community here in Sharjah. And when I found out about this conference happening this year, every cell in my body said, we have to make sure that we get that message out there. What would she have wanted to say? I think that's the missing piece of really shifting mindsets and really getting people engaged on a global level. You need to have enough people behind you, and organizations like Nama who have the reach. We're going to create something epic still. It's not just in Sharjah, it's not just in Europe, it's not just in America, it's actually global now. We're so delighted to have all of you here today. We have 14 finalists today that have been selected from a global competition that we've been having for over the past few months, and some have traveled as far as the United States to come, Sweden, across the region, and India. So I'm really thrilled that we're gonna start today.
I'm 46, so I remember a time when things were different, and this was like a distant dream where women are gonna have money and power and be able to do things like this. And then on this side of the world, I heard stories growing up where I thought that it would be hostile to women. Now everything's shifted so much so quickly that for me, this is a great victory and triumph for me to come here and for the women here to share how much they've advanced.
It's only recently that female empowerment has become such a core focus for topics and conversations. Enough time has passed for this to happen.
I've been breaking norms of these kind of gender values since I was a child, right? I mean, I grew up in a very conservative Indian family. We have a joke in our culture that if you have 3 children, it's probably because there's 2 girls and then there's a boy. Where girls were meant to go to school if they feel like it, work as a hobby, but then eventually get married. I mean, that's your role. I've been constantly wanting to push myself to show that, I don't need people to say, if you were a boy, it would have been so much easier for you. I want to be able to say that, look, actually, the success, the drive, the passion, the journey, the partnerships are coming because I'm a woman leader with skills and attributes and an understanding that ultimately needs to become an asset.
Challenge the unchallengeable in your culture, whatever it is. Whether it's a job role that you want to apply for, whether it's an education that you previously thought it was only exclusive for men, or it's an investment arena that was previously dominated by men, or none from your nationality, or none from your religious background, or none from your ethnic background, well, do it.
The world is shifting where we have a community of women investing in women. We have a community of women nurturing other women instead of saying, I don't like your idea. We actually have a room full of women saying, okay, maybe if you changed your model a little, I think you have a great business.
Wherever we want to go, whatever we want to do, you're gonna make it happen. You are the master of yourself.
Life is very short to be stuck in a certain space that you're not happy with. So I think taking risks is very important in life. You don't really live if you don't take risks anymore. So forget your weaknesses, we all have them. Just leave them aside, find what you're really good in, focus on your strength, and go for it. Every woman has something unique about her, and the world is just waiting, for her to share her strength and her knowledge and wisdom with the rest.
I do it for me. I have no fear left. I'm fearless. Watch me go. a bird.